World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here. Good evening, guys. It is Tuesday. It's 8 o'clock. Tuesday is Love Diaries time. I'm your host, Matt McCoy, and I am here on a day where a lot of stuff went on this past weekend, and but we're here. Tuesdays is always a busy day at Soul City. We got like 3 shows that we do back to back on Tuesdays, and my show, this show being the last show. But I'm glad to be here with you guys. I hope you guys are tuning in. Tell a friend, bring a friend. Today's show is going to be very interesting. It's going to be different. We try to bring you different sides of love, different things that deal with love and relationships each and every day. So, we're here for that. And, we're working on that right now. But today's going to be a good show. And unfortunately, though, my co-host, Black Words, will not be here today. We had an emergency he had to take care of, and he would not be here today. So I'm by myself, but I'm never by myself. Never by myself. I have you guys with me, and I did bring a great host, a great co-host, and somebody who is part of the Soul City team. And he's going to talk about credit and relationships. How do we leverage ourselves in our relationships to be able to do bigger things while we're, coming together. So I'm going to bring him on in about 2 minutes. And but in the meantime, I hope you guys are doing well out there. Tell a friend if you're here, if you're signing on, get ready. It's been a long weekend. We just did Father's Day pass. Once again, thank you for all those guys who wish me a happy Father's Day. Every Father's Day now I am working. We cover the Olympic bike race, the skyscraper bike race every Father's Day in Harlem. And it's a huge event, and it's a wonderful event. And I'll tell you guys, for the first time, I saw the bike race differently. Me and Jasmine were talking about it as we were watching it. And since we have the NASCAR situation happening, and I understand NASCARs, but in racing, car racing, I noticed how similar bike racing is to car racing. And that was pretty interesting to me. It was actually kind of exciting as we were out there to getting footage of the race. And it was different races. They had about 6 or 7 different races. You have the I guess you call them the novice acts races, and you had the professionals later on. And the women's professional race was crazy, though. I'll tell you all that much. The women's professional race was crazy. This woman out of San Francisco, little girl too. She had to be about 4'11", if that. She won by a minute. Now, a minute might not seem long to you guys, but just imagine somebody riding their bicycle a minute in front of you. And she was so far away from the pack, man. The whole race, she had her head down and just kept pushing. The whole race, her head was down, and she was pushing. going around that, the park. They go around Marcus Garvey Park, and that's 1 mile. And she did her thing, and it was interesting. It was interesting to say the least to see that. So that was pretty exciting. Everybody was cheering her on because she was moving, and there was a couple of crashes too. I think it was the first year we saw actual bike crashes. It was a crash right in front of Jasmine and William, cameraman. The bike crash right in front of them. I said, "Oh my God! I hope they didn't cause a bike crash." It was crazy, but but nobody got hurt. One bike crash we didn't see, and that stopped the race for a long time. So I hope whoever got hurt didn't, whoever crashed didn't get hurt. The winner of the bike race was a brother from Guyana. It was the second time winning the bike race here in Harlem. And so he got some nice little cash, walked away with that, and I think he qualifies for the Olympics now, too. So let's get this show started. Let's dive right into it. I'm bringing my guest on, my special guest. It's my man. He hosts the show, Leverage Your Score. And he's the credit guru. I'm just going to bring him on right now, ladies and gentlemen. Here's my man, Mr. Tyrone. What's going on, bro?
What's happening, Matt? Thank you so much for having me,
man. Yeah. Thank you, brother, for coming in at the last minute. Tried to normally I'll have a couple of females on call for my guest host, my girl Toya J, but she wasn't feeling good today. And I called my girl Nethia to get her on. She wasn't feeling well either. And I was like, damn stuff, so all the sisters weren't feeling well. So I was glad that you were able to come in and be a part of this broadcast. We're gonna keep it. We're not gonna be here long. Usually the show is 90 minutes because usually we're talking about love and sex, and the people come on, they won't let us leave. But today though we're gonna talk about finances, and so Tyrone, tell the audience who you are. You have a show on Soul City every Tuesday. Your show is right before mine, 6:00 on Tuesdays. So explain to people who you are and what you do, and then we'll dive into what you do and how important it is for couples.
Excellent. Thank you so much again. Thank you for having me on love, romance, relationships, and sex. I mean, for me, it all ties in. It's a relationship. When you have a relationship with your money, again, my name is Tyrone Glover. I'm the CEO of Leverage Credit Recovery. And my job is to, again, just help individuals get right with their relationships when it comes to money. It starts with your credit. I am a credit. Now, again, Matt calls me a guru. Dr. Yana B. Woodhouse calls me the professional. So I'm going to take all of those titles and I'm definitely going to run with it. But my job is to educate. Give recommendations, give educated recommendations about how you can move forward in this world of finance, leveraging your credit, because all of us have to by now. If you don't know, your credit is it. For me, it's the foundation. It helps create the platform that's going to allow for you to erect those two walls in the left and right, and those two walls front and back. And before you obviously put that roof on that finished product to create that home. So when it comes to relationships, it's a dual process. So when you're in a relationship, again, you should be looking at, are we working towards the same understanding? And that's what I do in the credit realm. I help individuals get fixated on making sure that our relationship with our money is equally in tandem as it should be with our relationships in love.
So that being said, Tyrone, and it's funny to talk about. Not funny, but it's good to talk about money now. You and I were involved in the Juneteenth celebration in Yonkers this past weekend, and so we had an economic panel. Dr. Yana was the keynote speaker, and I hosted the event, and me and Sandy hosted the panel discussion, and so we're talking about relationships, and we're talking about, most relationships fail because of money.
That they do.
Most relationships fail because of money. And I think cheating is after that. But high up on the chart by a good margin is money. And so people put so much weight on money, and we have to. We need money. We need money to survive, pay the rent, eat, so on, so on. I've always thought that people put too much weight on money, where it becomes stressful, and that stress eats into your relationships. The bills, you got to pay the bills. You can't take vacations. The kids need sneakers. Yada yada yada. And so I find that when people can come together and on one accord in the beginning, what are we going to do together as a unit, as a couple? What are we going to do? What are we going to do as far as, we're going to buy a house, or a condo, whatever it is, we're going to buy a car. All those things need credit. Now, that's not the only way to buy a house and a car is that you have to have good credit, but the normal way for most people to do it, unless you have a lot of other resources or a lot of cash, you need to have good credit. So how do you introduce credit, or how do you think credit should be introduced into a relationship?
I mean, excellent question. First and foremost, you got to start having those conversations. I do remember that you probably heard Sharky, who was up there on the panel, the young lady who said that we need to be having those conversations. And I love the fact that she brought into the conversation that her family has a monthly meeting or bi-weekly meeting. I mean, first and foremost, you got to want to talk about it. When you're getting into a relationship, do you go into a relationship not saying nothing to your future partner that you're with? No, you're probably about the most talkative when you first meet the person. You're always conversating, you're always sharing about this and about that. And when it comes to money, it seems like we get tight-lipped. So the first and foremost, what everyone has to do is you got to be comfortable with talking about it. It is an awkward topic, no question. I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a thousandaire. I want to be, again, put yourself into those categories. We are hundredaires. If you make $100 a week, you're a hundredaire.
Right.
Okay. If you make thousands of dollars a week, you're a thousandaire. So understand where you are and where you fit until you can have that conversation. And then once you're both on the same page, then you're going to start seeing how we can thrive, how we can grow this money. And also equally, again, like you said, find some experts, find some people that you can piggyback off of. Don't be embarrassed. Yana said this over the weekend. And again, thank you, Matt, for you and both Yana stepping up to the plate and helping us in Yonkers out Juneteenth. It was an experience that I thought it brightened my eyes. It opened my eyes even further. But again, you got to be open to talking about the most uncomfortable things so you can remove some of those stressors. You're right. Money is the number one stressor in our lives today, and it only compounds when we don't talk about it, because then it becomes an emotional stressor. It becomes a medical stressor. It really debilitates us from being able to grow because we're only thinking about, like you said, can't pay the rent, can't get those children the new sneakers, can't do these things. And the main reason why we can't is because we don't know and we're not open to having the conversation.
So conversation, and so and those, I mean, and those conversations are on different levels, but you need to start the conversation. You need to start hey, what do we want? Now, and we're prefacing this as this is a couple that's already together. Right. And that's my girlfriend or husband, wife, whatever the situation is. But that's your significant other at this point. So now, in dealing with your significant other, in order to build your life now together, you need to have that conversation about money. All right, how much money do you make every year? How much money do you make every year? What do we want to do? And when do we want to do it? When do we want to buy this house? Are we trying to buy this house, next week? Do we have enough money to buy it next week? Or do we have to plan for 2 or 3 years for it? And the planning and buying this house includes finding the right neighborhood that we want to live in, finding the price range that we can afford, talking with a financial advisor or whatever, and finding out what's your comfortable price range. You might not be able to buy $1 million house. You might not be able to live in Harlem. You know what I'm saying? You might have to move somewhere else, So all those things come into play, and then we know how much money you make, but credit seeps in. I mean, even if you want to buy a car, the cost of your monthly payments and everything is going to be due to your credit. and the monthly payments might be too high for you to make because of your credit. So that conversation, I think, is one you probably should have before you even hook up seriously. I would say before you even say, "Hey, I love you," and you're gonna be my one and only.
Mm-hmm.
I love you. Let's talk about money. Let's talk about credit, and not that it's a deal breaker either way.
Right.
It's just that now we need to start structuring our life together and what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. So that that conversation about money, credit, how do we spend it? Do we now go on less dates during the week? Do we, do we eat home more often, or you got to cook more often now and stuff? The courting phase is over. So when the courting phase is over, and now you get into the nitty gritty of the relationship, it's a whole nother world.
That honeymoon. I like
the honeymoon, right? Mm-hmm. So that credit. So I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, that you should really have that conversation the moment you say, "Hey, let's be a couple."
And you have to, because again, you're setting yourself up for, and I like to call it relationship self-sabotage, because you're not talking about the particulars that are eventually going to come up. They're going to come up. It's just a matter of time. If you have a car, she has a car, and you're in the honeymoon phase or the courting phase, and then, like you said, you move into that next phase. Well, once you express the LOVE, you're there. You are there. So that means you have probably been in a relationship for a long time now. And like you said, it's now your significant other. But if you're not having that conversation prior to that LOVE word coming out, you're destined to set yourself up for failure, especially within the African-American community or the community of colors. Mm-hmm. We are very stigmatized by the fact that, if I don't and if she don't, then that's a deal breaker. Well, don't think about getting into relationships if you're already sabotaging the relationships with these deal breakers. Think about the possibilities of, wait a minute, this could actually work if you had the conversations prior to. So,
and I'm sorry if you wasn't finished.
Go ahead.
So I'll say this: having bad credit is not a bad thing.
Not at all.
You know what I'm saying? It's it's like, hey, I damn near broke my toe when I was in Tulsa, and it's been hurting for a long time. That's not a bad thing. I didn't break it. It didn't fall off. It didn't, it healed.
No
I'm walking normally again. So that being the case, we know the one thing that you can always fix in your relationship is your credit.
Absolutely.
You might not be able to get a higher paying job because your skill level might not be higher paying skill, but you can always fix your credit and raise your credit score up to a damn near high, perfect score. And I always tell people, well, if your credit's not bad, if it's not good, that's okay. You can fix it. And it's not going to take forever. And I'll tell people, I had, 800 credit score, then I started Soul City and some other things and leveraged a whole bunch of things to do what I needed to do to, keep money flowing and so on and so on. My credit score went way down, you know what I'm saying? And, but now it's thanks to you, Tyrone.
Thank you.
Gave me some tips on the quick recovery phase. And, now my credit score when I started in February, I believe I started with listening and following your advice. And again, there's a secret, and we'll talk about the secrets of how you build your score and what type of money you spend. But my credit score is up 100 points now. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's since February. So by the end of the year, it should be up 200 points. And so that's cool. Now I know how to keep it there. I know the simple tricks, thanks to you, of how to keep it there. So explain those tricks, explain the rule of credit usage and recovery. And and I was one who never really cared about credit either and stuff, you know what I'm saying? And didn't think it was, but now I understand it a little bit better. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So, Gabe,
in order to build credit or establish credit, you have to use credit. And this is what most of us don't understand. Oh, I'm not touching credit. I'm not touching credit. Well, again, think about the most profitable businesses. Look at my niece. Hey, Sade. Love her. Thank you. She is now, believe it or not, Sade has just received an award. And I'm sorry, I just jumped off topic, but she received an award for being under 40 and one of the most successful individuals amongst her peers of the 40 most popular here in Yonkers. So she has.
Okay, so what is she doing? I need to know. We need to give her flowers right now.
Absolutely. You know? She has won an award for her position at Municipal Housing as a coordinator. And again, doing amazing things with making sure that senior housing is up to the standards that she herself has set for herself and exceeding what Municipal Housing has already set forth. So congratulations to my niece, Sade. She is doing her thing. Sade Glover, go ahead and keep doing it. Thank you so much.
Black excellence still rolling. Black
excellence. Of course. Black excellence will continue to roll. There it is, right there. Under 40.
40 under 40 rising star, Westchester Business Council, Macy's service coordinator. Okay, cool. You're quite welcome. Sade. Congratulations. It's important. I love celebrating Black people who are doing good stuff.
Oh, most definitely.
You know, especially when we're doing good stuff in their community.
Community.
You know, I love that. You know, we celebrate the athletes and, you know, the music stars for bringing us joy for a moment, you know, what they're doing. But the real celebration should really go to the people in the community who are doing stuff and making things happen under much more stress. You know what I'm saying? You know, I mean, you know, hey, you know, I mean, you know, Kevin Durant, they had that shot, you know, a couple of seconds left in the game. Whether he makes it or not, he's always going to get his $40 million. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't much stress. You know what I'm saying? You know, you'll get your $40 million no matter what happens. So Sade, once again, you know, congratulations.
And it's a labor of love for her. And when you do it with that understanding, the accolades just, you don't expect them, but when they come, definitely we want to cherish them and relish them. So good, congratulations. So yes, back to that. It has to be consistency, number one. So you got to use credit to build credit, number one. Number two, you have to stay consistent. We're not consistent. I have asked clients, I said, my simple process is 2 times a month. 2 times a month that we can sit down and talk at the beginning or in the middle or at the end. Staying consistent because that's going to allow.
When you say it's consistent,
yes,
you mean stay consistent in using your credit.
Using your credit
and paying it. Right.
Got to do that part too, but also having a coach, someone, basketball players, like you just said, he's got a coach.
Right.
Tennis players, they got a coach. Golf, soccer, any sport that you think of, and even some of the most, shall we say, top name individuals within the industries of whatever industry they're in, they have coaches. So it's nothing wrong with having someone who can, again, keep you on that straight and narrow so that you don't make those unforeseen errors, because we'll make them very easily because we're not probably so we're not budgeting. We're not putting everything down on paper. Well, if with this right here, you don't have to put everything down on paper.
Right.
You can do everything from your phone, and we're not using technology in the manner in which we should be using technology. So if we just focused on just those 3 things right there, those 3 things, using credit, because you've got to use credit. If you think about any big business out there, do you think big businesses use all their cash? They don't. They hold on. They hold on to as much of that cash as possible, because if you are someone who deals in the investment world, you know that cash can be traded. So before that final purchase is done, Walmart, Target, all these large companies out there, they're trading that cash first to get it at a much lower price. Because we as consumers don't understand that. We think that, cash is king. No, cash is king, but credit is power. That changes the whole dynamic. So you want to use as much of your credit, hold on to as much of your cash, because that cash allows for quick purchases on the fly if there's an emergency.
So start off, tell us how, because you know it's 23%, 23 to 27% usage rate. Explain that.
Yes, the utility, meaning the utilization. So say you max out your credit card, and again, keeping those credit cards allocate it to certain understandings. That's another key component. Because if you're going out getting $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, I see it all the time. Oh, I just got a $25,000 credit card. Well, you better be making somewhere upwards of $125,000. Because if you got a $25,000 credit card and you make $15,000, there's no way you're going to ever be able to bring that down. So if you have something within reason and you allocate it 23%, if you're under 650, meaning your credit score, your monthly understanding, you need to, if you max it out, you need to bring it back down to 23%. What happens is if you pay the minimum, you're only freeing up about 12% of your credit. So that means if you maxed out, you only freed up 12%. That means you're still 88% undervalued. So you have to do, which is a bad thing, because again, that wheel that we always discuss, which is that credit wheel that has payment history, that has utilization on it, those two areas are 65% of your overall score. So if you're not thinking about the largest piece of your credit profile, you're going to miss out on those two areas. So it's important to bring it down to that 23%. 23% means is that I'm freeing up 77% of my credit. So the industry already knows, due to the algorithm that it has already created. It has created an algorithm that keeps us in financial hardship. So we got to play the game accordingly.
So you're saying that, and again, let me make, because I just want to make sure that the audience is hearing it properly and that I'm still understanding it properly.
Absolutely.
So you're saying, so let's just say you keep the numbers simple. You have a $100 credit card, and your $100 credit card, you don't want to spend more than $23 on that credit card.
Let me clarify that, because it's not that you're only spending 23. You can max that $100.
You can max it out, but you want to make sure that it doesn't stay.
Exactly. You want to bring it down to that 23%. So that means at the end of when that bill comes in, you know that it's there because it's got a due date on it. That means you're going to pay that bill, and you're going to pay that 100. If you max it out, you're going to pay it down to $23. So that $23 now becomes your new zero.
Right.
Instead of paying it all the way down to zero. Because again, we're talking about we're talking about a subject that has to deal with relationships. You're creating a financial relationship with your lenders. And that relationship has to work. Again, in this context of what this show is all about, if you're not showing your partner love, how long do you think you're going to be in that relationship? Right. A peck on the cheek ain't going to do it all the time. And
here's the secret too. And, I mean, I've had the $25,000, $50,000 credit cards, and, so forth and so on. And, but the trick is, and once, business was great and still, but, I still cash. I got cash. I still, so I didn't really care about the credit for a long time. I got cash, no big deal, but I could pay cash for it. But after talking to you, meeting you the first time when I first met you, and you and Yana just happened to be on the same program speaking. I think it was in Yonkers too. So, and I said, well, yeah, this guy's, he's making sense. He's the first one I've heard. I know a lot of people who do credit repair. Right. And they call it credit repair, and, but it's always something. You got to buy this, you got to buy that, and, it's just never seemed right to me. Right. And you were the first one who said things that made sense to me. Thank you. And knowing at that point that my credit fucked up, you know what I'm saying? And, I got cash in my pocket. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Money in the bank, cash in my pocket. But, wow, he's making some sense. Which is why when I talk to you and I say, hey, man, you should have a show on the network that people need to know this information. But even for me, this lady, but I don't just give people a show on the network. They got to earn it. They got to be somebody who's, understanding. So, Yala's a professional. She's top of the league in finances. I had to make sure you was top in your league in finances too. It sounded good, so I had to put it to test myself. Absolutely. Try it myself. And I saw it work. It made sense. And you don't have to get a $1,000 credit card. Nope. You can I got 2 credit cards that both for $200. You know what I'm saying? And I use them. They pay some of my small bills, like my phone bill, and every once in a while I'll go out and have dinner and I'll use it, or I'll do this. And so I know when the bills, let's say the bill's due on the 1st of every month. That means somewhere around the 25th or the whatever, I make sure to pay that bill and up front early and get it down to that 23%, and I'm fine. And then you just sit there, you just keep checking your credit score every month. You just see it going up and up and up. Sometimes it goes down. One time it went down like 15 points. Like, what the hell's going on? But then it shot back up 30 points. You know what I'm saying? Right after that. So, so I think people have to understand, in order to recover your credit, you don't need to have big credit cards. Just get and the secret you told us about, the secured credit card, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And so you don't need, ladies and gentlemen, to get $1,000 credit card. You don't need a $10,000 credit card. You just want to just rebuild your credit, so it makes sense to rebuild it with a small amount that you can manage easily, without unless, like you said, unless you're making $200,000 a year or whatever. Just simply get a small secured credit card and just pay it off. Pay the $50, pay the $75, whatever you need to pay, every month on it, and just keep it moving. And your credit will start to shoot up like crazy. So explain the secured and the unsecured credit cards.
Sure. Well, as you just stated, the allocation of those credit cards. If you got a $25,000, $9,000, again, like we just indicated, if you're not Marsha Parker, that's my sister.
Okay. You got the whole family on board here.
Family is showing out today. Thank you.
All right, there you go. That's cool.
And that's Sade's mother.
Oh, Sade's mother. All right.
Yes. So showing out. I love it. So yes, allocating those cards is going to help tremendously, because we've been locked in the house for about a year and so.
Right.
So we know how much we're spending on groceries. We know how much we're spending on gifting and birthdays and things of that nature. We know what our monthly obligations or our relationships to our cell phone, to our electric bills, to our gas bills, things of that nature. So it's going to make things a lot easier when we allocate those cards. And the whole purpose of allocating is to create that budget that allows for, okay, it's due on the 1st, boom, got it, done, cards away now. I got that next item coming up, boom, done, out of the way. And every single month, if you continue on that path, like you said, you're going to see that score go up, because the industry is looking for behavior. They're looking for patterns. Right. If you create that behavior, create that pattern, guess what the industry is going to do? It's going to reward you accordingly. Right. But if you're creating a pattern or behavior that sets you back, then guess what? The industry is equally going to penalize you accordingly as well.
So the industry of credit is monitoring your habits, and it's reporting to other people what your habits are.
That is exactly what credit is. Yes, it is. That My FICO is monitoring Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. There's a lot of third-party institutions out there. There's a new one out there called Nexus Lexus, if I'm not mistaken. And one of my friends just told me about that one when he was in North Carolina and he went to get his cable. And they had said, oh, Nexus Lexus is sending you this report because you're going to have to pay more to get your electricity turned on. And he's like, what? How am I paying more? And I don't even know who Nexus Lexus is. But again, it's another one of these CRAs, which is credit reporting agencies. And they have flaws. They all have flaws. Every single last one of them has flaws, because Congress has allowed for these companies to operate with impunity, and they don't hold them accountable. Or shall I say, they do hold them accountable, but when you're making billions of dollars, millions of dollars in fines that you can turn around and write off, means absolutely nothing.
So with the flaws that they have, you can correct your flaws.
Absolutely.
And not be bothered by their flaws.
That is correct.
And I gotta keep stressing to people, you can do it with small amounts of money.
There it is.
And you can have credit like you got $1 billion.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? And then the secret is, once you get to the credit, once you get to that 800 credit score, then now you're in the big leagues.
And now you're able to negotiate with those individuals. So we started off with 23% because you was at 650. Then as you went up to, say, 700, you can bring that 23% down to 15%. Then once you're at 750, you can bring that down to now 7%. Right. So you're negotiating with your credit now power that you have. And that's why we call it leveraging credit. Leverage credit recovery. You're using all of the leverage that you get from knowledge and information, then you're applying that to the credit industry that is looking for a recovery. They're not looking for you to repair. You can't repair credit. It's nice that they put these adjectives to this understanding, but you can't repair credit. You can't even fix credit. You have to recover from certain behaviors and patterns that you've had over the course of your lifespan. And once you start recovering, you're going to be much, much better off.
So now let's talk about the different types of credit cards, secured and unsecured, and store cards, because those store cards are actually viable too. So tell us about that.
Secured cards is where you're securing it with your own resources. That means you go to, I'm going to use one of the institutions that I use, and I've recommended it to every single client that comes to me because, as Matt said, I use the product before I recommend the product. Before I give it to any consumer, I use it myself, and then I go out and I give them the understanding, hey, this is good. One of the recommendations that I always recommend is called Open Sky. Open Sky is a secured card. What that allows for you to do is you pick out a predetermined amount that you want your credit limit to be. And I believe they start off as low as $200, and you can go up as high as $5,000. Now, these are lower end products, but again, you got to understand, you're coming to the situation with maybe not so desirable credit. So again, you're going to be dealing with a product that might not have 24-hour customer service, or they might have operations only up until 9:00 p.m. So it's okay to be in those types of situations. But when you secure it, that means you're taking your resources and you're then now putting that as a means of being your credit limit.
And that pretty much guarantees you getting that credit card at the price that you want to get it at, not applying for it. Because when you apply for them, they check your credit. And if they say no, then your credit goes down.
There you go. That inquiry is also part of that wheel that we were discussing. 35% of payment on time, 30% utilization, and inquiries actually have a 10% range that they're looking at that you can equally harm yourself with if you're doing too many inquiries. So we always look for products that don't require a credit inquiry. All they're looking at is that you have a relationship with a financial institution and you're able to take money from that financial institution and put it onto your secured card. And then from there, it operates just like a regular unsecured. Now, unsecured just means is that you're not securing it. That means the financial institution is securing it for you. So they're giving you the money up front, and that is going to be a credit inquiry. So if you have not so desirable credit, you might not get that product, versus if you have a secured product, you're almost guaranteed to get that product unless you have some type of defaults or negatives with that financial institution that you're using to secure that secured card. But 99.9% of the times, if you are looking for a secured card, you're more than likely going to get that secured card. Some products you have to be careful with because they might not be in your state. But the caveat to all of this is that you don't get hit with an inquiry for something that you might not get.
Right. Okay. So, and now, is there a certain amount of credit cards that we should have?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The average consumer, single consumer, should have between 5 and 8 credit products. Now, credit products are different than credit cards. Now, the biggest piece of the credit product realm is mortgage. That's the biggest piece. And one of the things that we don't as consumers, and we need to require of our legislators now moving forward, is that they make this a public option versus a private option. Because private options mean Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, they're billion-dollar companies, so they can dictate and obfuscate a lot of the regulations that are out there to protect us as the consumers, because they're clearly in bed with the legislators. And again, as I stated, they only pay, they get hit with millions of dollars in fines. Equifax just was sued because they breached us back in 2017. And they still haven't been able to literally, we as consumers haven't been able to recoup not one dime yet, not one dime. And it's now 17, we're now 4 years down the road. And I bet you right now, if every consumer that's listening to me goes on to Equifax's website and put their name in to see if they were breached, I bet you it'll come up that you were breached. So it's really important to understand that secured cards help you reestablish. Once you're back into that 700, that 750 range, you can convert that over. And if you're protecting the behavior and the means in which you are using those cards, the lender themselves are going to see after a 3-month, 6-month, 9-month time frame, and they're gonna give you an unsecured. So all you got to do is just do the proper and the right behavior.
So you talked about credit products.
Yes.
So cards being one of them. You talked about the mortgage being another type of product. I guess a car loan would also be another type of product. So so let's say, but the car loan is affected. The interest you pay on it is affected by your credit score.
That is correct.
So if you walk in and you want to buy a Ford Mustang and it's a $40,000 car and your credit is 800, you get a very low interest rate and your monthly payments might be $400.
That is correct.
If you walk in with a 500 credit score, your monthly payments might be 1,500.
That is correct. And it's important.
You'll still get the loan for the car, but you're going to pay.
Oh. They're gonna give you that loan because they're hoping that you default. That's why they're gonna give you that loan. It's all systemically designed to put consumers into these awkward, just like again what it was with the houses back in 2008. It was the same type of predatory lending, and we as consumers got to get better at understanding or seeing the vultures in the sky because they're clearly there, and we're just not looking up. That's all it is. You gotta be,
and that's another thing where you're talking as a couple. And I'm gonna go back to the car because that's probably the first initial thing you do. It's cheaper than a house, and easier to get. So,
and it's easier to separate yourself from.
Right, exactly. So,
go the opposite direction.
right on. So I would think I'm going to sit down with my lady and say, okay, fine. We're going to buy a car. We're going to buy a car that you can afford. We're going to buy a car that the interest payments, the monthly payments are going to be low. So you don't need to buy this BMW. You need to buy this Ford Fusion. You need to buy, you need to not buy a $40,000 car. You need to buy a $20,000 car.
Absolutely.
It's going to get you from point A to point B. Why? Because you can manage the payments easier, thus helping the credit score to go up. And, you're going to lease this car. And then, after a year of leasing it, you got good payment. Your credit score is going to start going up and up and up. Then we can start focusing on a house. And you're working on that situation. So I'm looking at it to a point where it's these money conversations, these credit conversations, if you have them properly and you don't try to keep up with the Joneses, because most of them are probably broke anyway. If you do it properly within a 3-year period of time, I think you can get your house.
And I like the fact that you are putting it into time frames, which most people forget when they're in a relationship.
Yeah, they want to get it tomorrow. Oh, we're going to get married. Let's get a house the moment we get married. How though?
I've been there so many times. Well, not so many times, meaning I've had that many relationships. Right. I've only had 2 relationships. But within those 2 relationships, I have visited those very same understandings that you're bringing to the table of, let's get another car. Let's get a new. I mean, when I first bought my first car with my previous relationship, we bought a car, BMW. Again, our credit was modest. It wasn't beyond, and it wasn't great, but it was modest. But our payments were still around $625. Then on top of that $625, you get an insurance. Insurance, again, it's another piece that's going to be also observed by your credit. So again, you might be looking at another additional $150 to $200, again, depending on what your credit is. So now you're at $650, another $200. So you're looking at an $800, $850 overall car payment.
And that's ridiculous to me. To me, if you're paying $800 a month on a car payment, then you should be making $200,000 a year.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
You're
If you're not making that kind of money, then you shouldn't be buying that kind of car.
There it is.
Buy and look good and make it, because again, that means you still got to pay rent, you still got to eat. You know, hopefully you ain't got no kids and stuff. You know, because they got to eat too. If you paying $800 in a car, it doesn't. You know, but that's the kind of conversation I think we need to. Real conversations that we as a community and we as couples should have to understand. No, it's, you know, look, getting ain't nothing wrong with a Ford Fusion or whatever, you know, Elantra, whatever. There's nothing wrong with that. Nope. They're good cars. They will get you from point A to point B. You're only leasing it, and that's the other thing too. Leasing is important. You never buy a car. Today's world, you never buy a car.
Well,
stuff. Unless you use a car, you're gonna buy it without. So leasing, I always tell people lease, and Yana would back me up on that. That's leasing, but you want to lease within your pocket,
your range. And leasing allows for you, again, like you said, it allows for you to, if you're someone who likes to trade their car in after a year or two. Sure. I'm someone who I like IKEA. Now, IKEA furniture is not ideal, or it's not the strongest. It's got a short lifespan, maybe 6 months tops. But that's the whole thing with IKEA. IKEA wasn't designed like not maple, but maple wood. It's not designed with that thickness, that robustness that lasts for hundreds and hundreds of years. No, it's designed for that quick understanding, preferably if you don't have kids, because you know how kids like to climb all over your furniture, or dogs or things of that nature. It's more designed for a single person like myself who likes to change their view of what their apartment or what their house looks like every 6 to 8 months. So it's really important to understand, who are you as a consumer? Are you a leaser? Are you a buyer? If you decide you want to buy, good. Understand, again, like you just said, your pocket. Understand your pocket. If
and that's, I think, is the biggest thing. No matter what you do, understand who you are as a walking financial person, as a walking money, whatever. Because if you walk in there with light pockets, you shouldn't be buying things that are, you know, extravagant.
I think Yana's word was bamboozled.
Bamboozled, sure.
You're going to get bamboozled. These are experts. Again, car dealers, even though they might be young, they teach their individuals to take advantage of vulnerable consumers. They know if you are going to the car dealership on a rainy day, if you're going to it, because that's the best day to buy a car, on a rainy day. If you're going to a car dealership on a Saturday or on any type of holiday, they know what they're going to do to you. They already know. So as an informed consumer, make sure you go in with a copy of your credit report, preferably from FICO, because cars, homes, all of these categories are seen differently. You might have an overall credit score, but you have a a credit score for your mortgages. You have a credit score for your cars. You have a credit score for autos. You have a credit score for your credit cards. You have a credit score for credit builder loans. You have a credit score for different cards. I mean, there's like 5 or 6 different areas within that My FICO that ranges depending on what you're actually looking for as a consumer to purchase.
So now, and you mentioned informed consumer. Because the word consumer, it means to consume, and we have to be wise to understand what we're consuming and how we're consuming it. And when you go buy a car, you should understand that car backwards and forward. Whatever car you want, you should study that car. You should know how much it costs, how much it costs them to make it. You know what I'm saying? And so on. That way, when you go in, you know how to negotiate. You know how to negotiate the tax on it. And one of the things I will say, and we got to one day get her on the show to talk about it. Like Jasmine is an expert at car buying.
Oh, excellent.
She is I call her the car buying guru. I was really impressed by her. We went to get her car, and fancy little car and stuff, and all the bells and whistles in it. Drives his damn self, and but she went in there knowing what that car was, how much it costs, how much they paid for it, and she fought with them for hours on the price and how much she's going to pay for the taxes, how much she's going to pay on this and that. And Yana was sitting there with her, of course, backing her up and stuff, but But yeah, she didn't have to say much because Jasmine pretty much had it all worked out and wound up. They were frustrated. Wound up giving her the top of the line car for the same price they were selling the one below that. You know what I'm saying? She saved about $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 on the car cost and got the better car, the car that she really wanted, the better car and stuff, you know. But understanding what you're doing is important. And if you don't do it, it's fine. Find somebody that doesn't. Take them with you. Take them with you. You know, and also, you know, back to the cars, my understanding is like women should never go buy a car by themselves. Always take a man with you.
Or unless you're savvy enough. Again, I don't want to take anything away from our black queens or our.
Yeah, but you know, men try to get over on them and stuff.
Exactly. But if you go in there with knowledge already, they can sit there and hem and haw all they want. It's still not going to change the fact. My sister went and bought her car, Lexus, the first time that I ever helped her out buying a car. I said, Gail, half an hour. You're going to go in there because you already told me you want the champagne color with the brown leather, with the nice wheels and all of the things that you already knew. You had already eyed this out 6 months, 8 months prior to you actually deciding to go into the dealership. And you called me on that day. I said a half an hour. We looked at your credit. We analyzed it. We knew that we had needed to do some work prior to. We did that work prior to. Half an hour. If they're not ready within a half an hour, you get up, you walk out, you tell them thank you. And that's it. Half an hour. I think she was at 28 minutes.
Right.
Washed, keys, the whole nine. The whole nine. She knew it was already on the lot. She knew the VIN number. She knew everything. Like you said, do your homework prior to. So she didn't have to sit there and go back and forth. You know, that scheme, I got to go talk to the manager. Where they're not going to talk to nobody. They're just going to sit in the break room to sit for 10 minutes because they already know what the manager's done told them at the morning meeting or at the afternoon meeting prior to their shift. We're not making any deals, but you can do the back and forth if you want to. But trust me when I tell you this, you walk into any car dealership with your credit score in hand and you show them, I got 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. This deal needs to be signed, or you see that door that I just came in, I'm going to be walking right out of it. And I guarantee you the dealers will, because they're not making any, no, excuse me, I may take that back. They're making money. They don't want to make money off of you in that particular situation. They want to retain your business. They want to keep.
You got to move that car off the lot. That car sitting in that lot.
And there you are. Exactly. That car that's on. And can you imagine right now where I don't know how they were talking about that car dealerships are raising the prices. How are you raising the prices? We've been in a pandemic for a year and a half.
You
got a bunch of inventory
during the pandemic.
What's that?
And Jasmine bought her car during the pandemic. And cars flying off out the store. There was crowded. People were in there buying cars
because car dealers were a little bit nervous that they were sitting on a whole bunch of inventory, and guarantee you they are sitting on a whole bunch of inventory. So mark my words. I would say by the middle of, not the middle, but by the end of this year, they're now looking at 22, 23 coming in. So they have inventory from 18. That they're still trying to move. So they're sitting on a whole bunch. So watch me when I tell you. I'm thinking about the beginning of the year. Oh, watch. They're going to be deals galore. They're going to be rebates galore. So like you said, don't go out getting a BMW. Don't go out getting a Mercedes-Benz. A lot of these lower model, less expensive cars will offer you the exact same understandings as these show vehicles, to show off vehicles.
So we should be educated consumers and not emotional consumers.
Oh my God, absolutely.
We should not go out there and we should not buy things because it looks pretty or because we think, because a lot of cars you think are good cars and because they're expensive, but not necessarily good cars.
Right.
They're really not good cars.
Again, you can get a bottom of the line BMW for the price of a top of the line Honda or Ford. I mean, the Kias right now and the so we got Kia and what's that other one? Oh my goodness, there's one more that comes from Korea.
Hyundai.
Hyundai, there it is, Hyundai. These cars are, I was like, can you imagine I went in the military in 91? These things were like $3,000, $4,000.
Yeah.
They're up to this almost the same price as a top.
And they're just as good or better than
Better.
the BMWs.
Better.
And I would tell you, because Jasmine has a Hyundai, and it's the top of the line one. That shit is better than the BMW.
Amen.
And it is smoking. You know what I'm saying? The car is sexy.
Panoramic
and
sunroof,
all
all the bells and whistles.
Yeah,
I was looking at that like, oh my goodness. I was looking because we were on the show and she was doing her broadcast from the vehicle. And I'm looking at, I was trying to look through her sunroof. I'm like,
man.
It's bigger than the whole sky almost.
You know,
but yes.
You know, being an informed consumer and smart when you're shopping, it's the same thing of when you're shopping for food. You want to get the best price.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You know,
it's about being proactive versus reactive.
Right. And that's the same thing with our credit.
Yes.
You know, being proactive with our credit. And shop now, how do you shop for credit cards? How do you shop for the best deals?
Well, it's really not about the deals, because a lot of these deals, if you're a business owner and you're looking for miles or points, then that means you're spending that means all your inventory, everything that you're doing, you're buying on that credit card. So that's going to increase the points that you get that allows for you to now fly here for free or stay at this hotel for free. So if you're shopping in that capacity as a business, I would say go for the points, because you're going to be using clearly much more. But if you're a consumer, those points, really, to be honest with you, it's a gimmick. 2% even cash back is a gimmick. Right. 2%, what's in my wallet, Samuel L. Jackson or what's the Kevin Hart? Your hand is in my wallet. Mm-hmm. Your ability to take more of my money because they use you as a advertising tool, that because I like your stand-ups or I like your movies, that's going to get me to buy that or get that product. Right. That's not necessarily the case. If you understand, as we just said, savvy consumers, 2% off $1,000, that ain't going to do it for you. That's nothing. That's nothing in return. So it's best to look for a card that has low interest, very, very low interest. And if you've been with somebody and you've been in a relationship for quite some time and you have a credit card that you can't get the interest rates down, then you should be thinking about that relationship might not be suitable for you. And there's nothing wrong with telling your lender, I'm going to jump ship. I'm going to go somewhere else if you can't work with me. This is where, again, all the negotiation skills have to come back. We negotiate with our children all the time. It's time to go to bed. Oh, can I just stay up for 5 more minutes? So why can't you do that when it comes with your credit card? Whether you have an existing credit card or if you're looking to get a new credit card. I'm going to always suggest to individuals with less than perfect credit, start off with secured. If you have good credit, definitely still get a secured. Think about the conditions of which you're going to keep that, maybe for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and then negotiate with your creditors after that to an unsecured product. And if you have great credit, always make sure that you're getting 1 to 2%, because those lenders are borrowing from each other and they're equally borrowing from the feds at 0.
Mm-hmm. So and I would, based on my limited knowledge, think to you at this point, I would still say if you're rebuilding your credit is near the top, depending on what your purchase is, and your plans are, okay, now unless your car just breaks down, you got to have a car to drive for work or whatever, you need to go get a car right away. But you normally plan for a house.
Exactly.
You normally plan for these things. So I would say plan, you might have the money. I would say wait a year, see what the market does. And then plan by also just getting a secured card, $100 secured card, and just using it and paying up to help your credit score go even more. So that by the time you buy the house, you're at the top of the line, 850 or whatever it's going to be, and because again, the interest rate that you'll pay on your mortgage or your car note or whatever is going to be different because you're credited. They respect you more.
Absolutely.
And so they trust you more and respect you more because you have a higher credit score.
You brought up 2 very key words when it comes to the industry: respect and trust. Respect and trust. They want to be dealing with somebody who has that respect for themselves first and foremost, that they're going to keep and maintain that credit so that it doesn't force them into a situation where they're now having to really focus on that negotiation piece because they didn't do their part. So clearly, if you drop from a 800 to a 7, there might be some shall we say, medical related situations, or a partner may have passed away and now you're dealing with that on your own. But prior to all of that, it's really important to make sure, if you're in a relationship, work together. Find out what this one doesn't have so that you can have it, and vice versa. You all need to be on the same accord. You have to be on the same accord. If you're not, it's only going to create more issues. Like you said, plan ahead of time.
And don't be afraid to talk about it. We can't. If I'm afraid to talk about my money or my credit with the woman who I'm supposed to love and so on and so on, because, or not tell her how much I have in the bank that you're going to steal it, they don't need to be with her in the first place. Why do you want to be with that person in the first place? If you don't trust them enough to tell them your secrets and tell them where the passwords are, you know what I'm saying, then you don't need to be with them.
Would you walk down the darkest street in the worst neighborhood?
Of course, not at all.
Of course not. Of course not. You wouldn't. You would be like very apprehensive unless that was the only path that you could take. So same thing when it comes to a relationship. Don't set yourself up to have to walk down that dark street with no lights, because you never know what's going to jump out of those corners. If you have the proper understanding, the first thing is, obviously, as you said, knowing your industry. The financial industry is no joke, and we're looking at it as if it is a joke, because we've never amassed the understanding of how it works. Yano's book is excellent at how your money works. So we got to know these things about money. We got to know how much of it can I leverage myself off of. Do I have the ability to be able to do these types of things? Credit card first. Go ahead.
Knowing your industry, but also because we're talking about relationships and money and credit, you got to know the person that you're dating or marrying. You know what I'm saying? Getting involved in that committed relationship, because if they are bad with their finances and aren't trying to hear anything to fix it, and they want to keep buying the BMWs, you know what I'm saying, and saying, hey, babe, you work at the supermarket packing bags. How do you want to drive a BMW? We need to buy a house. We need to build something that we can leave a legacy behind to our kids, leave something of value to our kids, and so on and so on. So having a good understanding of who that person is very important.
It's so important that we tend to forget how important it is. We tell our spouses, hey, I love you so much. I would be lost without you. But if you're not having that conversation, you're already lost without that person, because you're leaving so much unsaid on that table, and that can't be. In a relationship, to further strengthen, as you brought up again, more legacy understandings. You're going to have to get out of the way of the awkward conversations and start having them on a regular basis, because then they won't be awkward any longer. It'll be normal. You'll be doing those things. Hey, how's it look this week? Oh, it looks great. I took care of this. What did you take care of? Okay, I took care of this. We sit back down in the middle of the month. Hey, we're good. Now we have an extra 500, 600, 700 because you did those things that were important. Now you have now you've freed up a whole bunch more money. Now you can look at, okay, let's put this towards investing. Let's take this and put this towards something else. You freed up because you allocate it. Now you can start diversifying. When you start diversifying, then you're going to start growth. Then you're going to start creating that generational wealth that we always talk about. And then you can start planning, because if you save 6 1 month, that means more than likely you can save that 6 again. Then you're going to start fine tuning a little bit more. Now you got 700. Now you're at 800. Now you stopped overspending. Now you really are thinking about this credit thing and this money thing. And now you and your partner or your wife or your spouse or whatever one wants to use as the verbiage, now you guys are falling more madly in love with each other, because you've removed a lot of those stressors. You've removed a lot of those barriers that we see as barriers. And it becomes so important when you can now look at your mate and says, we are finally getting there. We are finally making it.
And it's more fun to do it that way. When you're working with somebody, you guys are building something together and working towards goal. I forget the sister's name again, who with her family sits.
Sharky.
Yeah, Sharky. It's more fun when you have a mate that you can talk to about business and about our goals and what we're going to build, and they're not just looking at you to do it all. you
Right.
know, or I mean, no, if you can, that's great. You know what I'm saying? If one person can handle it, and I don't mind if when that house, I can buy the house, I'll buy the house. It's not a big deal.
And
But
it puts you on a
it's
winning
fun that they at least understand it, because I might die one day, and you got to keep that house. I'm saying,
and it puts you on a winning team. Who doesn't like to be
Right.
part of a winning team?
True.
Who? Every team that you see, you don't see after they win a game, they're like,
right.
oh, I'm so sad we just won that game. Oh.
Right.
No, you are ecstatic. You running around giving everybody the chest bump and everything. That's the way it should be with our finances. It should be the same thing. The same thing. Every month, you should be walking to your mate, jumping in the air, giving them that chest bump, giving them that high five. If you can't do that on a monthly basis, then you need to reevaluate what is it that we're doing wrong.
Right.
And again, do not be afraid to reach out to people. That's our biggest hindrance.
Yeah.
Not only are we not talking about it amongst ourselves, but we're afraid to reach out to the experts.
Right. Right.
Don't. You would not operate on yourself. I can tell you that right now. You would not take a scalpel, cut the side open, and start pulling out things. You would not do it because you're not an expert at that. You're going to go seek someone who can do that for you. So the exact same thing when it comes to your money. Don't be afraid to seek out the experts, and then hold them accountable. Hold them accountable, because anyone like myself, I'm not going to be the burden bearer of your failures because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And that's another part that equally harms the consumer and the entity that's attempting to help the consumer. I was in a consolidated credit type of situation. $339. I remember it so distinctively. $339. They were we're gonna take all your bills, we're gonna put them into a pot, and we're gonna renegotiate with your creditors about this interest rate, that interest rate. $39 went towards the renegotiating. $300 went into their pocket.
Right.
You're not negotiating on my behalf. You're taking my money. So this is how I learned how to understand that businesses are about their bottom line. They're not about you unless you understand what that business is about.
And unfortunately, a relationship is a
same thing.
Is like a business relationship.
Same thing.
What's the bottom line? Are we getting what we thought we was going to get from this relationship? Are we able to work together and build, the winning team? If not, you might as well go out there and be a prize fighter and get punched in the face all the time. That's the same thing.
And don't be afraid of the controversies. Don't be afraid of the tug of war sometimes.
Yeah.
Don't be
it's
afraid.
Natural. It's good. It's healthy.
It is very healthy.
It's healthy because sometimes I know I've had arguments and then they would say something, build an argument, but you're right. You're right. Actually, I see your point now. You know what I'm saying? But if they didn't fight with me and argue with me about, saying the situation that,
and
I might not have gotten it.
There's a certain amount of endorphins that are released through, these types of understandings. It's good to be combative, but as long as that combativeness is not turning into something like resentment, it's not turning into disgust because it's, you just despise this person because they keep, no, it's not. If you're in a relationship, you got to get comfortable with the relationship in all parts of the relationship, whether it be in sex, whether it be in love, whether it be in romance, whether it be in finance. You got to be happy and content with whatever the conversations are. And if they do veer off in another direction, you got to be okay with pulling them back in. Hey, I noticed that we didn't finish that conversation last night. And also equally, step away if it gets too heated. Step away. That's helpful. That's helpful. If you know your income is not there, don't attempt to have the conversation and plead and beg and plead and beg and plead and beg. All you're going to do is find yourself in a much worse off situation because you knew going into it, it was never going to work. And then, of course, if it doesn't, the other party is going to be looking at you going, I told you, I told you, I told you. You don't want to be there. You don't want to be there. That's another sabotage effort.
Yes, sir. So, Tyrone, I appreciate you, brother, coming in the last minute. Come on the show. I don't want to keep it too long because we don't pay enough money to do a lot of overtime. So, but I want to just your last thoughts, your last words that you would leave with couples, or or somebody looking to get into a relationship when it
Sure.
comes to their credit and understanding it and how that affects the relationship? What are your last words for them?
Be upfront, be truthful. Be upfront, be truthful. If you are someone who's a spender, tell your partner or your mate, I'm a spender. If you're someone who's a saver, I was doing these 3 things with my clients. I mean, my clients with my students. I said, there are 3 people in this world. You have your savers, you have your spenders, and you have your investors. Know which one you are and then prioritize those by percentages. I am a 80% investor. All of my resources, 100% of my resources, 80% of them now go to my investments. I am a 10% spender. I go to stores like Marshalls and Ross and TJ Maxx because guess what? I can get great values there. I'll shop online during the deals. I am a 10% saver. I know what the banks do with my money, and I'm not going to constantly keep giving my money to financial institutions that will not give me those products. So know who you are first and foremost. Be open to your mate in having these conversations and stay consistent. They're looking at your behavior. They're looking at your pattern. If you meet those criteria, you'll never have any problems with gaining credit, and you'll never have that awkward conversation when you get into a relationship about, oh, my money's not quite where it is.
Okay. And so, ladies and gentlemen, you got it right there from Tyrone Glover, the credit guru, your dressed down CEO, as he likes to call himself. And so, Tyrone, your show is every Tuesday at 6 o'clock on the Social Network. See it right here live on social media and YouTube. Then it's on TV. Catch him on all the digital platforms, Apple, Amazon, Roku, Comcast, around the country, and other cable platforms. I appreciate you, bro. I'm gonna let you go so you can go eat. And I got tons of work still to do. Absolutely. And my day is not done. Probably won't be done for another 4 or 5 hours. So you know, we got to do. But ladies and gentlemen, I thank you guys for hanging in there with us, absorbing the information. But we'll have Tyrone back again. You guys can ask more questions and really let you guys get in to the question and answer period with them. All right, so we're out.
Thank you so much,
brother. Love you, bro. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And, we will talk soon. All right, bro. Peace.
Peace.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.